Hello from Singapore lah. We just touched down maybe about an hour and a half ago. It's a Saturday, so there's actually like not many businesses or any tours that we can go on. So we literally just have today and tomorrow just to go shopping! Ah!
So we just finished our meeting with the team at Fonterra, and one of the things that we learned is that, or why they chose Singapore, is because Singapore is like central to a lot of other countries, and the time difference really worked for them.
After our little talk with Fonterra, we then moved on to visit Tim Norton from 90 Seconds. Tim Norton, 3 years ago, believe it or not, gave a little talk at our Velocity launch. That would have been when we all first started volunteering for Velocity. And since then, his company has really ramped up in terms of securing a lot of equity funding, as well as shifting from New Zealand to Singapore. From there, we got to understand even more about a New Zealand company choosing Singapore as their hub of their business activity.
Something that's actually really interesting about him is that when he closed up shop in New Zealand, he actually motivated and tried to push his team to go to offices overseas. So we met two types of people today. So we met a company that is Fonterra, and they have a base of operations here in Singapore. That's essentially a Kiwi company that's working here in Singapore. And we also met a Kiwi entrepreneur who now has a startup here in Singapore. So it was really good to see the point of views from the different kinds of people. Yeah. So I guess we're gonna head off for dinner, guys.
Yay.
I'm hungry.
Yeet.
Yay!
So, one of our main objectives for coming to Singapore is that we want to learn about how their university run their entrepreneurship and innovation program, and that's why we are here today at the National University of Singapore, NUS, and their innovation arm is called NUS Enterprise.
Just finished off a little conversation with a representative from Block 71. Block 71 is a little hub for entrepreneurship here in Singapore, where there is over 800 different startups, as well as over 45 different VCs, all in one building. That makes it really easy for any startup doing a business here to literally just go up to a VC and ask them for some advice or what they should be doing, or basically helping them scale their products or services beyond Singapore.
So another thing that NUS Enterprise offers is something called NOC. So NOC stands for the NUS Overseas Colleges. So what they do is they send the top students from NUS over to startups that are in different countries, like for example Munich, LA, San Francisco, Beijing, or just other places where NUS has bases. And what they do is they work in these startups for a year, and they bring what they learned back to NUS, and hopefully what the aim of NUS Enterprise is to create more startups in Singapore. So the whole point of this is to increase innovation and get people to start innovating more and researching more as well. Catch you guys soon. Bye.
So after our meeting with NUS, we went to meet another Kiwi who lives abroad. Her name is Rebecca, and she's the owner of a virtual room here. Yeah, so her story is really interesting because she came from a corporate background. She was like management consulting before she ended up having her own startup here in Singapore. And this VR room is different from the normal ones because you get to communicate with the other players, and we were fortunate enough to try a demo house. One fascinating thing about her, or that we learned from her, is that she threw a new light to what entrepreneurship and innovation is for us anyway, and we got to know that you can franchise.
One other Kiwi that we got to meet here in Singapore is named Joe. We were fortunate enough to get connected to him through meeting with Tim Norton yesterday. Tim was like, this guy you have to meet, and we very much did that. Joe runs two types of businesses here in Singapore. One focuses on brewing craft beer, and another one is a content marketing agency. One interesting thing that Joe said was that how difficult it is to actually do a startup here in Singapore, especially if you're a foreigner. But what really matters is if you have the determination as well as the grit to actually do that, then you can honestly just do anything. And a good example that he used was doing an alcohol beverage here in Singapore has a lot of restrictions as well as a lot of it's not adopted here in the Singapore market.
So because the government here has placed restrictions on alcohol, so it's actually quite expensive to drink alcohol here. But by selling B2B, so selling to firms, he is able to kind of go around this. But like Nick said, he had to jump through a whole lot of hurdles in order to get there because of all the restrictions and the legislation that he had to pass in order to get his distillery up and running. Yeah, so what we just got back from is Marina Bay Sands. Now, Marina Bay Sands is, if I was to quote our leader here, Nick Bing,
Feel lit.
yeah, so we got to see like a light show, then we went by Gardens by the Bay and we had dinner underneath the flowy trees. It was really nice. So now we're getting prepped for tomorrow and Thursday. So tomorrow and Thursday we're starting the AI conference that one of the things that we're doing here. So there's a lot of things that are on. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to go to the different sessions that interest us. So Dammy, since she's doing her PhD in something to do with machine learning and AI, she'll be going to more of the techie side of things or the more in-depth knowledge stuff. Whereas Nick might go into the marketing side of things, and God knows where I will go, but I will find out soon. Catch you guys tomorrow.
Peace.
Hello world. So today was the first day of the AI Summit, so the conference that we're here to attend in Singapore. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you the summary tomorrow after the 2-day event. So after we finish tomorrow, then we'll get all our thoughts together and then we'll tell you what we learned.
Later on this evening, me and Kaushal also attended this event that was held from the New Zealand Chamber of Commerce. Tonight we got to hear a pretty famous story from a famous Kiwi entrepreneur. He started off his career as a baker. You may know him from the famous TV show Kiwi's Greatest Bake Off. His name is Dean Britswitz.
No, his name is Dean Brett Schneider. Carry on.
His story kind of follows a traditional, really passionate kind of entrepreneur, and he didn't even realize that. Dean is well known around here as the global baker. He started up over 10 different bakeries here in Singapore called Baker & Cook, as well as another chain of burgers called Mo and Joe, and a few other things.
Like Plank's Pizza. Sourdough pizza. What was it, sourdough buns?
You're a sourdough.
So some of the things that we got up from Dean's talk is that what he did was he focused on his brand, and when he focused on his brand, he was able to create an atmosphere that people would want to come to. And another thing that he did was he used reverse marketing. So he created a cooking school. So he got people interested in baking, and then in turn they would actually start going to the bakeries to eat his food. So he actually calls it reverse marketing. So another thing that he puts emphasis on is, especially here in Asia, so Dean really emphasized that in Asia, relationships come first, and then after relationships comes business. If you can't create a good relationship, then kinda you don't really get good business, because he gave examples of how he just called up his mate being like, hey, can I get some jam? And he's like, yeah bro. So those are a couple things. He did say a whole lot of other stuff, but it's more about a story. So tomorrow we've got our last day here in Singapore, and tomorrow is also the day 2 of the AI Summit. So we've already decided the things that we want to go see. And again, we'll get back to you on the points that we kind of learned from there and that we're going to want to kind of bring back home. Yeah, see you guys then. Bang!
Hello La! So we just finished the last 2 days at the AI Summit here in the Marina Bay Sands, as you can see. It's been a full-on last 2 days where we got to experience different technologies here that they're using in Asia especially. Singapore is just the stepping stone for many businesses to expand off to Asia, and that for me has been like the biggest learning I could have got ever. Going to this AI Summit has really taught me the value of AI and the potential it has to really impact everything we do, from cybersecurity to Internet of Things to literally autonomous cars. There's almost like anything that you can think of, AI is behind it. In terms of what I got out of Singapore, I've honestly just loved every single part of it. From meeting the different Kiwis we got to meet to experiencing the different cultures here in Singapore. There's a lot of studies that say that Singapore is the best place to do business, just ahead of New Zealand. And to be honest, you can, like, as soon as you touch down, you can literally see why that is. In terms of financial, in terms of helping startups, as well as giving grants or even just looking for VCs. It's everything you can hope for as an entrepreneur.
Alright. So we just finished the AI conference and my mind has been blown. I didn't know how many applications there actually were of AI. So just to get down to it, there's 2 main points that I learned. One is, I don't know how many of you guys are gamers, but if you guys have played the game Watch Dogs, that stuff is actually happening, and that leads me on to my second point. So Watch Dogs is a game where you can use your cell phone to basically control everything. You can transfer money from someone's account to your account, you can change traffic lights and a whole lot of other stuff. So how that's actually being used is in China, if people that don't have any banking background or banking records, banks don't know if they should lend money to them. So what an AI company has done is they have created a software which detects people when they're like out walking on the street or something like that. So, and then it kind of tells someone if they're reputable or not. If they like do something bad, like for example jaywalk, or they're smoking on the train, or they're buying a lot of video games, then they lose credit points. So basically, and then if they don't have enough credit points and they can't, for example, get a loan, they can't use rentals, kind of like Black Mirror episodes. It's another TV show. Seriously suggest watching it. So I guess it's something that I have learnt here in Singapore is, so Dammy and Nick have talked about different things in terms of being foreigner in a different country. I kind of looked at it in terms of like a family point of view. So a lot of people that we've met here, they're Kiwis living abroad, and they're kind of tossed up between moving back to New Zealand to bring up a family, or they're staying here. And so they actually decided to stay here, mainly because of the diversity that you get here. So I remember talking to someone yesterday at the Den Brett Schneider event, that he said that his daughter and his son have friends that are Muslim, friends that are Hindu, friends that are Japanese, friends that are, I don't know, from all over the place. So it's really interesting to see that everybody comes together and they live together. So he's like, his kids have learnt about different cultures, and yeah, it's just amazing to hear that. Whereas in New Zealand, we hear about it a little bit, but not as much as you could get exposure here in Singapore. Yeah, catch you guys later.
Singapore have really been amazing. Like, I've learned so much. But one particular thing that stood out for me was like we were able to meet a lot of Kiwis that are here, and myself as a foreigner in New Zealand, meeting Kiwis that are foreigners in Singapore, I've opened my eyes to all new things that can be done. So they've really been able to push boundaries and do things that are not easy for foreigners to do. So even now, I'm already considering actually doing my own startup one day, just because of some of the great stories I've had them do, stories of technology that they're using, and how they are pushing boundaries, and how they are disrupting the markets here in Singapore. So I'm really, really inspired, and I can't wait for what the future holds for me. And yeah, see you back in New Zealand.
Throughout our travels to Korea and Singapore, we would like to give a big thank you to all the innovators and entrepreneurs we met along the way. We would also like to say a big thank you to the team at the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and Velocity for making this possible. And finally, a big thank you to you for tuning in. See you around.